here looking at chapter 5 in Deuteronomy. Moses reminds Israel of their covenant with God at Sinai. And Moses called, verse 1, and Moses called all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments which I speak in your hearing today, that you may learn them to be careful to observe them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us in Horeb. The Lord did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us. Those who are here today, all of us who are alive, the Lord talked with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. I stood between the Lord and you at that time to declare to you the word of the Lord, for you were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up to the mountain. He said, and it goes on to the next reading here in just a few minutes. A couple of things we want to talk about here. Again, Moses is just reciting. This is the last month, basically, of Moses' life, and he's trying to recap everything because of these are, the people had traveled for 40 years, 38 years since they first started. It's a total of 40. They traveled up to the promised land, then they didn't get over, and because of that, then they had to travail for 38 more years while they're out there in the desert. But because of that, they all passed away. Everybody except Joshua and Caleb and Moses so far had passed away. Anybody that was, I'll say this the way it is, 20 years old and older. Okay, if they were 20 years old and under, they didn't die. So those that was 20 years old or 19, say, now they're 59. So we know Joshua and Caleb may have been in that time range, and we know that they were somewhere between 20 and 60. Okay, their ages. Later on, as we get into Joshua and those, it'll tell us a little bit more about it.
That way, because in biblical time, people live quite long, and so you don't look at those people also and dying at a younger age.
Well, they lived older until Moses, until after Abraham. Abraham lived 125 years, I think it was. Moses lived 120 years, but then after that, it started, their average lifespan was getting smaller. Okay, because of the fall.
Yeah.
Before the flood, the people were living, well, Methuselah lived 969 years. Right up to the flood, basically. When he died, then the flood came.
Yeah.
Just immediately thereafter sometime. Some of the others lived that long too. But after that, then it starts going down. If you go through the lineage in Genesis, it talks about they lived, 800 years. And then this one lived 600 years. And then this one lived 400 years. And then this one lived 300 years. So it just...
That makes you think that everybody lived quite a long time.
They did live longer than what we're anticipating. I mean, most of us right now anticipating less than 100 years. But we have people that's lived up to 120 years here, not too long ago, still going on. There's still some people living over 100 easily. So it's just depending on that. But these people were just being telling them again, because some of them were just youngsters. Some of them was old enough that they remember this. So we have a little bit said the Lord did not make this covenant with our fathers. Okay? In fact, the covenant was originally made with the previous generation. What he's trying to say, Moses is not denying that, but he drove home the point. Moses made it with your fathers. Now that's on you. Okay? The same covenant that they made is going to connect to you. So you're going to have to agree to it. And that's what he's telling them there. And they'll say later on, in the next few chapters, okay, we accept this. Okay? So that's what he's saying. The wording here leaves a little bit to be desired, but it was their covenant. I mean, they were going to have to live with the covenant that they had. Okay? It was with their fathers. Well, their fathers are all dead. The covenant doesn't matter now because they're dead. Now it's ours. Just like anything else that we have.
I always had the idea that all people in the Bible lived a really long time.
No.
I didn't realize that some of them didn't even make it to 100.
Oh, yeah, there's lots of them died. David's son died just a little bit after he was born.
But that's something in adulthood. So.
Yeah, well, they had a lot of wars back then.
That's true.
They died in the wars. That's right. Okay, and again, it talks to us, and we hear the terms, and people call this a contradiction. That there's contradictions in the Bible. It says, the Lord talked with you face to face on the mountain from the midst of the fire. Well, we read that last week.
Yeah.
Okay, they heard the voice. Okay, who's up on the mountain? And we can hear all the way down the mountain somebody talking. Well, it's not Moses. It's not Joshua. Joshua's up with him too. So we know it had to be God. He was telling them it was God. That's why it's a little bit of, not literally, but it's a figure of speech to them that we talk face to face. Even Moses, when he went and he said, I want to talk to you face to face. God said, that's not going to happen. He said, you'd die. You can't look upon me. Now, how about Adam and Eve?
Sure.
They walked with God but that was before the fall.
Yeah.
They could do that. They wouldn't die because they were not touched by that. Now we're touched with the Adamic nature from the fall, and we just can't take that much glory that God shows us. So that's why he said, you can't look face to face. That's why he said, get in the crevice, turn your back, and when I tell you, I'll turn my back and you can see the backside of me. Wow. And from that, Moses absorbed so much energy from him, or whatever you want to say, the glory, that people couldn't even look upon Moses as he came down from the mountain. He had to put a veil on his face. Because they were scared to death. They were scared to death because his face was glowing.
Wow.
Okay, Brother Epson, number 6 and 7.
I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me.
Okay, we're going to repeat the 10 Commandments. Is basically what this lesson is, plus some other things. So he's telling them right now, no other gods before me. That's what got you in trouble before. Egypt was there 400 years, and that had ingrained in them the worship of gods other than the one God. Okay, God of the universe. So the first commandment is we have to understand who God is, and to understand who God is, we got to understand there isn't any other gods. And with that, you're not going to make an image. People, for some reason, want to be able to put their hands on it, touch it, feel it, see it, whatever, to believe in it. That's part of the fall, part of the Adamic nature, again, that is in there. So, because of that, people make gods of anything and everything. Says there was a great temptation to worship the gods of materialism. Baal was the god of weather and financial success. Sex was Ashtaroth, sex, romance, and reproduction, and any other of the local deities. Later on, Rome, they had their 12 gods, 12 plus gods. The Greeks had their 12 plus gods. But he's telling them no other gods before me. This did not imply that it was permissible to have other gods, as long as they lined up behind the true God. Instead, the idea is there are to be no other gods before the sight of the true God in our life. Okay? That's how we meet God face to face. God demands to be more than added to our lives. We don't just add Jesus to our lives. We must give him all of our life. Failure to obey this commandment is called idolatry. We see in the New Testament it talks about several places, 1 Corinthians 10 and 6, Ephesians 5, Revelation 21 and 22, Galatians 5, and 1 Peter 4 and 3, again in 1 Corinthians, all talks about idolatry, and we should not participate in idolatry. Okay, Ira, that's my cousin, my nephew. Iris, 8 through 10.
You shall not make for yourself a carved image, any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing mercy to thousands to those who love me and keep my commandments.
Okay, so this is just following on what he had before. Can't make any idols. Well, this is a carved image. We don't want to make any carving. Again, people want to see and want to be able to hold something. Later on, when Caesar was involved in Rome and they were ruling the world, they had their big statues and people had to bow down to them, or the statues, or they die. We see this in Daniel, when the king Belshazzar, I'll get it. He wanted everybody to bow down to the idol that it wasn't his idol, it's his image that he drew up. And of course, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. And that's where the fiery furnace came in. But you shouldn't take anything above the earth, below the earth, in the earth, or on the earth. It means you shouldn't worship the earth, shouldn't worship the trees, shouldn't worship the stars, the sun, the moon. All these things play a part in our living. We plant by the moon, okay, do things by the moon. We realize that and we use it because we have seen things happen when this happens. But we shouldn't let that rule our lives, be a God to us. The second commandment didn't forbid making an image of something for artistic purposes. God himself commanded Israel to make images of cherubims. It forbade the making of images as an aid to worship. Okay, when they built the tabernacle, they built pictures of angels, the cherubim, and put them on top of the Holy of Holies. Okay? There are other places in there where they made images like that. One of the things that it says here, to countenance its image worship, the Roman Catholic Church has left the whole of this second commandment out of the Ten Commandments, and thus lost the whole one of the Ten Commandments. But to keep up the number, they divided the 10th one into two different ones. Okay? So that's one thing that I learned that I didn't know.
I know that either.
That they said that they don't, because they do have a lot of idols, they have a lot of statues.
Which
They
one
worship
did they deliver and divide?
Mary,
Oh,
the Virgin Mary is a big one.
okay.
And then all their saints that
Yeah,
they,
the rosary.
the rosary that they do, the beads, they use that in prayer and remind them doing things. And I mean, it's just part of it that it's, you know, he said you shouldn't do that. So that's part of it.
No,
Greek
I didn't know.
mythology,
I didn't know that.
with Zeus.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what during Jesus' times, there was a lot then. This is a little bit before that time, but it could have been happening because it was, we know it was happening because of Baal and Ashtaroth and all those nations around them was having their gods, Dagog of the Philistines and all those others. That's what they're doing. That was their god or gods, whatever they had. John 4:24 tells us the rationale behind the second commandment. God is a spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. The use of images and other material things as a focus to help to worship denies who God is and how we must worship Him. Paul reminds us of the futility of trying to make God into our own image. It says, professing to be wise, they became fools and changed the glory of the incorruptible God into an image made like corruptible man and birds and four-footed animals and creeping things. So that's what eventually happened in Paul's times up until that time. So for several hundred years there, 1,400 years almost. And it says, visiting the iniquity of the fathers of the children to the third and fourth generation. And you got to read that last part, of those who hate me. Okay? He's not going to place the father's sin on the children if the children want to serve him. Okay? So, but if they don't, that iniquity is going to stay with them down to the third and the fourth generation. There's going to have to be but here again, it's just like the Israelites. This is the second generation. Okay, and that's what he's saying. I'm not going to put you guys in there with your folks that messed up. You're going to have your own chance at this. And now you're getting ready to go on. So I want you to be clear, you don't have any idols. You can't have any idols. Okay, Tammy, on page 5, you're going to read verse 11 for us.
You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain.
It says, we can break the third commandment through profanity, using the name of God in blasphemy and cursing. Also in frivolity, using the name of God in a superficial or stupid way. And hypocrisy, claiming the name of God but acting in a way that disgraces him. So we need to be careful. When the Jews take it so tight that they won't even speak the name of God. They won't spell it out. A lot of, if you read any commentators on there, it'll be G/D when they're talking about God, or Yahweh, Yah/H. They've taken it to an extreme, okay? I don't know if that's okay or not, but at least they aren't using it in vain. I hear a lot of people say, things like that, taking the Lord just as a byword. And my grandma, she'd always jump on me and say, good night. She said, oh, that's too close, honey. Don't say good. That's too close to God. I'm like, well, what else can we say? Cheese and crackers. I don't know. Whatever comes to your mind. But that's just the way that we have to be careful, is what we have to do. We can't take the Lord our God in vain. It says it will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. The strength of this command has led to strange traditions among the Jewish people, and that's just what I was saying. Refusing even to write out the name of God in fear that the paper might be destroyed and the name of God would have been written in vain. So that's
extreme.
It is. Okay, you read the next part now at the bottom of 5, Bertha?
Okay. Observe the Sabbath day to keep it holy, and as the Lord your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your ox, nor your donkey, nor any or cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates, that your male servant and your female servant may rest as well as you, and remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God brought you out from there by the mighty hand and by outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God
So they have it, and the Jewish people still do this, the Sabbath, the seventh day. Okay? So they're saying that God created Adam, or created the world on the first day, which was Sunday. And then, not Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, till the last day, the seventh day, he rested. Okay? So, you think that going to an extreme, I read this and it's just funny, down at the bottom, says, ancient rabbis taught that on the Sabbath, a man could not carry something in his right hand or in his left hand, across his chest or in his shoulders, but he could carry something with the back of his hand, his foot, his elbow, or his ear, in his ear, his hair, or in the hem of his shirt, or in his shoe, or sandal. Or, on the Sabbath, you Israelites were forbidden to tie a knot, except a woman. She can tie a knot for her girdle. Okay? So, if a bucket of water had to be raised from a well on Sabbath, a man could not tie a rope to the bucket, but a woman could tie her girdle to the bucket and pull it up. Isn't that like lawyers trying to find the little fine line to see where we're skirting the issue? And it says in observant Jewish homes today, one cannot turn on a light, a stove, or a switch, because that's work.
That's today?
That's today. It is forbidden to drive a certain distance or even make a telephone call. All are carefully regulated by traditions seeking to spell out the law exactly. They want to make it where this is what you have to follow. And I was watching we've been to Israel, my wife and I was telling them, on the Sabbath, our leader, our guide there she said, if you want to come down, we'll go through a Sabbath dinner, and all the things they go through, they light candles and say prayers and all that. Some of them did that. Excuse me, we just watched to see what they did. But in the hotel we stayed at, these 3 elevators were okay. You could ride them all, whatever you want. No, they were on the Sabbath schedule. This one elevator, you could ride it up and down, but everybody was at that elevator. These other elevators were on the Sabbath. So what happened? The door, it's on automatic. The door opens up. You get on. Stops at the 2nd floor. Stops at the 3rd floor. Stops at the 4th floor. Goes all the way top, and then comes back down one at a time. It just does that all day. That way you don't have to push a button, because that's work.
Goodness.
That's work. And
the doors open automatically.
the doors open automatically. So everybody was trying to get to their floor, which is 4 or 5 floors up, and they'd be waiting on that one little elevator. Well, that wouldn't happen.
Wow.
So, but that's part of what they go through. And watching another guy that I saw on YouTube, he was walking down the street, and it was Sabbath, and he said, I'm walking on this side of the street because I can videotape these guys. He was not a practicing Jew. He was an Israelite, but he's not a practicing Jew. But he said, and all the people was coming into Jerusalem for the Sabbath. It was Friday evening, and then getting ready to have their Saturday services, and it actually happened to be, I think, Yom Kippur. So there's a lot of people coming in their Sunday best. Okay, but on the other side of the street, if he'd have walked over there, they would have shouted him down and took his camera away and everything, because he was working. He was using that. Okay, so he couldn't even video. He had to be on this side to take pictures. I mean, that's here again. That's
Like it can.
yeah. It's one of those things. So
I go, what did you say I have to do?
says we are commanded to work 6 days. He who idles his time away in the 6 days is equally culpable in the sight of God as he who works on the 7th. Many Christians should give more leisure time to the work of the Lord. Every Christian should have a deliberate way to serve God and advance the kingdom of Christ. I know we talk about the Latter-day Saints, the Seventh-day Adventists that meet on Saturday. If they want to meet on Saturday, that's fine with me. But Jesus said, because since he rose on Sunday, that's why most of the Christians today meet on Sunday and have their day of rest on Sunday.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
Most of the Christians today, because Christ rose on Sunday, they take that as the first day of the week. It's kind of shifted, and that's the day that they have for their day of rest. They're calling that the Sabbath, if you want to call it a day of rest. And all he's trying to say, when we put that into time, and you go back and read Paul and all that, they're saying you need a time of rest. You need to work, there's time to work, and then there's time to rest. If you work 7 days in a row, I've done this because I was out in the wells and you had to work that time. He was on Army days, he was on and then he was off. But those particular times is for a time of rest. You do get tired when you work, because sometimes we'd work all day and night. Something would go wrong and you'd have to keep going. And if they're drilling wells, you make your own time, but usually you had two guys to rotate on and off. But that's what it's trying to say, that on the seventh day, we're resting today. The Seventh-day Adventists, they are still following what the Sabbath is, which is actually Friday evening, whenever the sun sets, till Saturday evening the next day. That's the Sabbath day, that time period.
Even Paul, when Paul said that on the first day of the week,
We should gather together. Yeah. And it's the thing behind it. I mean, the promise behind it, I guess, that I'm trying to say. What he's trying to tell us is you need a time of rest. We see that when we go back and look at what he told us before about the land. Every 7 years, you're supposed to rest the land and not have any crops on it. That's called rotation planting. You would plant one field here, and next year you wouldn't plant that field, you'd plant this one in wheat, this one in whatever, and this one in whatever. That way and it tells us that if you do that, the Bible tells us if you do that, you'll get enough in that last year to cover you for the 2 years. It'll be more than abundantly. And that's one of the reasons that they wasn't following, that Nebuchadnezzar came over and captured them, because they wasn't given the year rest. They wasn't releasing the slaves like they should be. They were supposed to, if you took a slave, you're supposed to, after 7 years, you're supposed to release them if they wanted to be released. Okay, if they wanted to stay with you, that's fine. Put your ear up against the doorway and they pull a hole through it, you're a servant for the rest of their life. But they wasn't doing that. Okay, and that's part of the reason that they were not following the 10 Commandments all the way through to that time. Okay, the 5th commandment is honor your father and your mother as long as the Lord your God has commanded you, that your days may be long and that it may be well with you in the land which the Lord your God is giving you. Honor for fathers and mothers is an essential building block for the stability and the health of all society. If the younger generations are constantly at war with older generations, the foundations of society will be destroyed. Jesus used the way the Pharisees interpreted this commandment as an example of how one might keep the law with a limited interpretation, yet violate the spirit of the commandment. Okay? And just to remind you what Jesus said, he said, a son would say, Corbin, meaning that my goods is now set for God. These are set aside for God. And even though my mom and dad need some help, I can't help them because that portion is set aside for God. That's wrong. That's what Jesus was telling us. You need to help. You need to honor your father and mother. Okay, no matter what. You set that aside to God. You did that just so you wouldn't have to. You're, again, going around the rules. That's some of the rules that the rabbis and things made up at that time that they could get around with it. And it tells us that your days may be long. Paul tells us in Ephesians, emphasizing this promise that your days may be long upon the land. Rebellion is costly, and many have paid a high price personally for the rebellion against their parents. And I think today that's part of it, that kids have no respect. I mean, some children have no respect for the authority, for the parents, for anything. Brother Epson, you get the whole one there.
You shall not murder.
Okay, what does that actually mean? The word.
Maliciously, I mean,
You shall not kill. It's not you shall not kill.
it's murdering.
You shall not murder. Doesn't say we can't kill somebody, and that's not saying we need to go out and kill someone. If somebody attacks you and you fight back and they happen to fall and hit their head and they die, you killed them. But it's either self-defense or whatever, and that's why he put into place, Moses did, because of God's rules, the refuge cities that they could run to, and that they would not have a recompense that the blood, the people related to them couldn't come and kill you. But that's intentional, just like Brother Epson said, malicious, intentional killing of somebody, it's murder. We call it first-degree murder now in the legal system. You're planning it out, you can't do that. That's what he's saying. 18, Iris?
What did you say?
18, it's in page 9 there. Right there.
Oh, 18. Okay. You shall not commit adultery.
Clearly, the act itself is condemned. God allows no justification for the ways that many often seek to justify extramarital sex. It's not to be done. When it is done, it's a sin and it causes damage. If you go back and read, and we'll read it later on in Deuteronomy, there's different punishments for the different types. Okay? Because some are virgins, and some are this, and some are that, and there's different punishments for that. But it's still wrong. Each is wrong, but they're wrong in different ways. Merrill explains it why there is not specific mention of other sexual sins in the Ten Commandments. It says, elsewhere, such matters as fornication, prostitution, homosexuality receive attention or are soundly condemned. Adultery, however, implies unfaithfulness, covenant breaking, and so is an apt analog to covenant infidelity on a higher plane. When Jesus talks about us as a man and woman is joined together, such as the church is brought together, when that bond's broken, there's a broken unity between you and God too. I mean, that's a problem. That's what he's saying. It's like that. So because you're breaking that bond, there may be some, and I know we have a lot of things that happen with people. People get in bad situations and all that. But that's what he's saying, that we have to be careful about this. When we're going about this in all the different ways, it condemns, in the New Testament it says it condemns adultery. Now the works of the flesh in Galatians, it tells us adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, and it goes on. These acts is condemned, but not only the act itself. Jesus went on, said, even the thoughts. It prohibits us from looking at a woman to lust for her. Where we commit adultery in our heart or our mind, yet may not have the courage or opportunity to do the act. We aren't innocent just because we don't have the opportunity to sin. We really want to. We have to be real careful. Our minds are very susceptible. And we have to be diligent, very diligent with ourselves, because that's one way that Satan pushes on people. Today, we see that a lot. In the Hollywood and stuff, I mean, marriage lasts 4 or 5 years and they're happy. I mean, it's had a good run, let's go get another one. And that's just not the way it is. Shouldn't be. I mean, that's the way God told us it should be from the very beginning. Verse 19, Tammy, on page 10.
You shall not steal.
You shall not steal. This command is another important foundation for human society. it establishes rights to personal property. God has clearly entrusted certain possessions to certain individuals, and other people or states are not permitted to take that property without due process of law. We can also steal from God. Of course, this demands we honor God with our financial resources and our time, too, as a matter of fact. So we're not guilty of robbing him, tells us in Malachi. But we can also rob God by refusing to give him ourselves for obedience and service, because he bought us and owns us. It says in Peter, knowing that you are not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ. Now, I had, when I was in college, I took one class. That's all I could stand. Is the Synoptic Gospels. And that guy, he tried to tell us, I mean, even back then, that's 40 years ago, he's trying to tell us it's not wrong if somebody needs to go steal some bread or steal some food for their family that's starving. It's like, well, that's a little simplistic. You know, why is their family starving? Is he not working? Is he, this, that, and the other? And that gets into a lot of philosophy stuff that he was trying to draw us out of. But he was trying to get us to say that shouldn't be wrong. It's like, no, it's not. If I see somebody with a Corvette out here, good for him. Yeah, would I like to have one? Not really. He would, but I wouldn't. But, oh yeah, you haven't heard him preach?
Yeah. He got a small one in his office.
Yeah, he's got a Corvette in his office. No, there are certain cars that, sure, I'd like to have. I had a Trans Am when I was young. It's a nice car. I wish I'd kept it. So, anyway, we have to be careful, because that's what it starts out as. We see something. We see that today in the people saying, well, the insurance will cover it. It's no big deal. It's okay if we get this or get that. And the people, they steal stuff, and it's not right. Yeah, they may have it, but they worked hard for it, and they don't want to have to pay more insurance because you're stealing from it. It's just clear that they have not been entrained, these 10 Commandments. And like,
But they live on a corner lot. People like my yard real well.
yeah,
And there's one thing they cannot steal unless they have a jackhammer, and that's the cemented bird bath. Otherwise, I don't put it through my vegetable.
let's see. 20 is, did you read Bertha?
Oh,
Read that one?
sure.
Okay.
You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Now what is that?
Lies,
Lies, slanders, tale-bearing,
accusation.
creating false impressions,
Yeah.
even by silence.
Yeah.
Okay, by questioning the motives behind someone's actions. We see a lot of that today. Or even flattering people. So slander is just a lie invented and spread with the attempt to do harm. That is the worst form of injury a person can do to another. Compared to one who does this, a gangster is a gentleman, and a murderer is kind. Because he ends life in a moment with a stroke with little pain. But the man guilty of slander ruins a reputation which may never be regained and causes lifelong suffering. We see that today, especially, I hate to say it, but in the political realm. They want to get on to people and try to badmouth them, get the dirt quote on them, so everybody thinks that they're dirty. Well, it doesn't have to be or not. They could see somebody doing something out there, and they can say that's what they're doing, and it may be an honest, transfer or whatever they're doing. But when they make it look like that, they're slandering that person. They're liable, and that's why we see that today in a lot of what's happening out there when they say that, and then they start having all the lawsuits that's coming up because they're saying you're defaming me. I'm gonna stand up for myself. And tale-bearing is repeating a report about a person without investigation. It's like the game where you sit there and whisper in somebody's ear and it goes down the line, and by the time it gets to the other side, it's something you never started in the very first place. Because we all have the tendency to hear what we want to hear and not what we actually hear. We're not listening. But again, it says, what about inappropriate silence? When someone utters a falsity about another and a third person is present who has the knowledge that it's untrue, but for reasons of fear of being disliked remains quiet, that person is as guilty as the other. Okay? So we have to be honest about what we're doing and not want to twist it so it makes us look better.
Yeah.
That's a human nature. We want to put other people down so we look better. Okay? Build ourselves up. The New Testament puts it simply, do not lie one to another, since you have put off the old man with his deeds. Colossians 3 and 9. That's about as straight as you can get it. It says, what a startling revelation if it would be, a tape recording could be played of all that every church member has said about his fellow members in 1 week. We need to be careful, because sometimes that's, did you hear what so-and-so said the other day? And they may not be talking to you. They're talking to somebody over here, and you overhear something, and you thought you heard that. Okay, fine, but that's not your, Darla does that. I'm saying she'll ask me what happened out here, because I'm out here and I can hear some stuff around going back. And I said, well, this is what I heard, but I don't know what's going on, so I don't know.
I have a friend, I haven't been able to be around him for the last several years, but I know he had this thing, if he was in a conversation and somebody said, I heard somebody say something, you better be ready to go to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And, because one day, somebody said something, and those saying, this came straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
And, one time he took a person over to this person and it wasn't. And,
wasn't what it said, yeah. Well, and we get our stories mixed up. Like I said, we want to hear what we want to hear. And sometimes we're listening and sometimes we're not listening. Okay, page 12 at the top. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, his male servant, his female servant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is in your neighbor's, or this Corvette. Is that what it said? I don't know. No, we just covet. What's a covet mean?
Envy.
To pant after is what it says here. To lock your mind upon an object. It admires it. The wheel goes over it and the body moves in to possess it. Just because you have not taken the final step doesn't mean you're not in the process of coveting right now. When we see something and it's like, boy, that's nice. And I fight this a lot. I'm doing, I can't say it that way, but something comes up and somebody shows me something, or I go over to their house and they got a new toy, new whatever, and I look at mine and I'm like, I can need one of those, I don't need one of those, it costs money, I don't want to spend that money. So, you have to fight against certain things like that. It's just, it's a new toy, or a new whatever you're coming up on. And that's what we get, I guess, tired of some things that we have. And that's why I said, that guy's ox, that's to us, who care about an ox or a donkey or all that. But to us, it's like car, house, boat, whatever draws your fancy. Nice car, nice, whatever. So, Hebrews tells us, let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Brings about to here. This is all temporal. All that we have is temporal. It's here for a time and then it's gone. If we can buy a new car, it'll rust. Eventually, 20, 30 years. If we do this, do that, it's just temporal. It doesn't matter. What we have to think about is what God told us. We have to think about eternity. So that coveting somebody else's things here, it's not worth it. It's not going to gain us anything. I'll read the next one because it's so long. Bottom page 12. 22. These words the Lord spoke to all your assembly in the mountain from the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness with a loud voice, and he added no more. And he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. So it was when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, that you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders, and you said, surely the Lord our God has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. We have seen this day that God speaks with man, yet he still lives. Now therefore, why should we die? For this great fire will consume us if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any more. Then we shall die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living God, speaking from the midst of the fire as we have and lived? You go near and hear all that the Lord your God may say, and tell us all that the Lord our God says to you, and we will hear and do it. So this is just going back and saying they need to confirm this is what they're going to do. This is what the things that we're going to listen to and we commit to, that we're going to do this. It says the Mount Sinai experience was not one of sweet fellowship with God. The message of Sinai was not come unto me, but stay away from me, for I am holy and you are not. That's what he was trying to embed within the people. Later on, when Christ came, now it's come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden. Okay. I'll just go ahead and read just a couple more. 14 says, Then the Lord heard the voice of your words when you spoke to me. And the Lord said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They are right in all that they have spoken. Oh, that they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and always keep my commandments, that it might be well with them and with their children forever. Go and say to them, return to your tents. But as for you, stand here by me, and I will speak to you all the commandments, the statutes, the judgments, which you shall teach them, that they may observe them in the land which I am giving them to possess. Therefore you shall be careful to do as the Lord your God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left. You shall walk in all the ways which the Lord your God has commanded, that you may live and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you shall possess. So God was pleased with Israel's response. They said, yes, we will do that. The feeling is that God liked what he saw in Israel, but hoped that they would keep that same attitude and heart as they went on. In fact, Israel did not. 40 days later, they danced around and worshipped a golden calf. That was back in the very first going. This is God's motive in calling for our obedience, that it might be well with us. Every command of God is rooted in love for us, not some obsessive desire to control us or being mean-spirited toward us. Knowing the God of glory as revealed in Sinai and the love of God as revealed by longing that it might be well with them, gave them all the more reason to obey God. When we have trouble obeying God, we are clearly lacking in one of these. Either we forget his glory, or we forget his love, or we forget both. And that's part of it. I mean, we have to continually look and seek God. Otherwise, kind of running in a rut, doing the same thing. All right, appreciate everybody coming out.
Thank you.